Hey parents, welcome to this week's at-home video. We are continuing our series Lines this week, and this is the week that we're going to be talking about the physical line. So we're going to be talking about God's design for sex and what He meant for it to be. So as we get into this discussion tomorrow night, I know that's a heavy topic. My hope is that coming into this Wednesday night that you have had that conversation with your students. If you haven't, please do, because that is one that can deepen y'all's relationship, but also really set a framework and foundation for them as they continue to start to think about what this is and what God designed it to be. But tomorrow night we're going to cover a couple of different passages, but really the flow of the message is going to be looking at what culture in the world says sex is, or what they think that it should be, and then we're going to look at God's design for it, what God created it to be. And then at the end, we're going to talk about boundaries and standards that they can implement when they start dating to make sure that they are living in a way that is obedient to what God has called them to, and is also leaning into that so that they can experience that the way God intended them to experience it, which is in a married relationship with their spouse. So I'm looking forward to talking about that with your students because I think that it's something that for the longest time, the church, and I mean the church big C, as somebody who grew up in it, it has constantly been, don't think about it, don't talk about it, and that obviously does not work. So let's look at what God designed for it to be and what He says about it in Scripture so that we can set our students up to have successful marriages in the future. So as you're continuing the conversation at home, I think there's two things that you can hone in on. Really, you can cover a lot of different things from talking about what culture says about sex, but really two things that I think can be fruitful for you guys in your conversation would be, one, what surprised you as you talked about Wednesday night, as Cameron talked about God's design for sex, what surprised you about that? What was interesting to you? Because hopefully we're going to set them up to be able to see that God intended it for our good and for His glory, but in the right context. And then second, what are the boundaries and standards that you're going to have in a dating relationship? You may have a student who is dating. You might have one who hasn't started yet and may not for a while. But even now, talking through those things as a parent who loves their child and speaking into that, helping them develop those standards and boundaries, can set them up to be as successful as possible in their dating relationships and doing them in a Christ-honoring way. So I appreciate your prayers tomorrow night. If you have questions about anything, as always, you can reach out and contact me. I'd love to answer them. But please be in prayer for us tomorrow night, and I really hope that this sparks really good conversation for you and your students at home. So I'm praying for you guys this week. We'll see you tomorrow night.